All right, Zach, thank you. Everyone can use a little extra cash to get by until payday, right? Well, payday loans, also known as cash advances or deferred deposits, are attractive but proceed with caution. That's according to the Better Business Bureau. Erin Duffner is here. She says these small, short-term, high-rate loans can come at a very high price. And, of course, that's the fine print right there, because you think you're getting cash at an easy rate right there.
Well, you're right, and it can be a way to get quick cash, especially for folks who maybe have that lower credit score, are unable to get that quick cash, real simple loan from a bank. So it can be something that's interesting to some of those folks, but the challenge comes in when you don't pay off that loan in that 15 to 30 days when you agree.
Well, then that's when you find yourself, knee deep in trouble there. Talk about what happened in the last legislative session here in Texas, because the BBB was involved in testifying to Texas legislature about these payday, the cash advances companies.
Well, you're right. And, the BBB is a great resource, especially for, state and federal Congress, to really give the experience when they are developing these bills of where consumers are getting ripped off or where there is some confusion. So a couple of different bills went into effect when it comes to car and payday loans. Number one, there's additional registration through the state that's required. So consumers have that extra protection to be sure that they're dealing with somebody that's licensed. There are also some disclosures that are required in terms of the fees as well as the interest rate when consumers do go and get those car or payday loans. So there are some extra protections, but consumers really need to understand what they're doing, especially for, folks maybe English is their second language. That can be a challenge because it can seem like a really good deal, but they don't necessarily understand what happens if they don't pay off the loan in that specific time frame.
And this has really resulted in, what did you say, thousands and thousands, 4,000 complaints the BBB got nationwide last year?
You're right. And, a lot of that, again, is because of the confusion. For example, $15 may not seem like a lot for maybe a couple $100s to borrow until that next paycheck. But if you don't pay it off, it can be up to 300-400% APR that you're actually paying to actually get the $200 or maybe $300 that you originally looked for. So paying off that loan can take several months, and by the time you're done paying that off, it could be thousands of dollars.
Okay, so good to know that those protections are in place, but you also brought with you some tips because you have to protect yourself. First of all, just be aware of these services to begin with.
Well, you're right. Be sure that you select them carefully. Be sure you check them out with BBB. Now be sure that you're double checking the state for licensing and registration. Make sure that you don't pay any kind of upfront fees. It really should be deducted when you go, to really get that payday loan. So make sure. The other thing is make sure, an extra protection is actually go to that lender. Go to their physical location. You know where they are. You have somebody face-to-face that you're talking to. Be careful of those wire transfers online.
Okay, as opposed to online, I guess you were saying. And don't pay up front. Wait until that is deducted from
your paycheck. Absolutely. And just make sure that your next paycheck is actually going to cover the payment that you owe to that payday or car loan company.
Sure.
That's really, really important.
The next tip you had already touched on, pay off that loan quickly. Do not pay a fee up front. Be wary of lenders asking for a wire transfer.
Right. Anytime you're doing a wire transfer, there's very little protection as opposed to using some kind of credit card or checking account, that kind of thing, because it's very difficult to track. And a lot of those wire transfers are actually out of the United States, which makes it basically impossible to track because you have to get federal authorities involved in order to track that wire transfer. So never do that.
Okay, that's good information. I love this next tip. If it seems too good to be true, it is. If it's free money, nothing's free.
Well, you're right. You have to look. You're right, and you have to look for those hidden fees. That's why there might be that lengthy contract, but people generally don't take the time to read that fine print because they need the money now. They need to get in and out of the store, and they really don't take the time to make sure that they understand what the interest rates are, what the actual fees are going to be, and to double check that licensing and their BBB, report. Of course, their reliability report.
Are there some of these companies that the BBB backs?
Well, really, there's nothing really illegal about car and payday loans, but really what BBB is looking for is to make sure that they're following those state laws, making sure that they're going ahead and disclosing the fees, making sure that they're not charging fees that aren't disclosed to the consumer, because that's really the key.
This is really interesting. Well, the good news is, the state now enacted a couple laws now to protect everyone. But if you want a review of our conversation, you can head to myfoxaustin.com. Also, bbb.org is a great resource for all of us consumers out there. Happy New Year to you.
Thanks, you too.
Good to see you, Erin.